Denver Broncos rookie running back Audric Estime will be out the next 4 weeks after landing on injured reserve. And in a week where the Broncos need to get the run game going, this is a massive blow to the offense. We'll highlight what his loss will mean for that unit here on today's breaking news episode, Locked On Broncos.
You are Locked On Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, Broncos Country? Welcome into a bonus episode of Locked On Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks to all the everydayers out there in Broncos Country. Thank you so much for tuning in, making us your first listen of the day every single day. I'm Cody Roark, Broncos reporter for Mile High Sports. Make sure you subscribe or follow to the show on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, so you never miss out on what's going on with your favorite team, including some bonus episodes when the discussion warrants it. And that certainly is the case here, as the Broncos will be without rookie running back Audric Estime for the next 4 weeks after he suffered an ankle injury and the Broncos lost to the Seattle Seahawks here in week 1. What will the offense look like without him? And specifically, how will the Broncos run the ball, not only just this week against the Steelers, but in other weeks ahead without a big bruising back there like Estime? Who could they call upon the practice squad? And Denver, all across the board going into week 2, has a lot of injuries. We'll highlight the injury report from Wednesday as well here on today's episode of the show here in Broncos Country. Let's kick it off with that news right here. We're out there at practice, obviously on Wednesday, and a lot of the conversation, we were looking and seeing who was on the side field. Denver had a lot of players over there on the injury side. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But the biggest thing that we found out from Wednesday's practice was that Audric Estime, the Broncos rookie draft pick from this year, he is placed on injured reserve. He will be out for the next 4 weeks with an ankle injury. And to be honest with you, watching the game on Sunday, we saw that he had only had 2 carries for 14 yards. There was nothing definitive that really stood out that said, okay, hey, he hurt his ankle. We were all surprised when we saw him on the side field here, obviously this afternoon in Dove Valley. But then when the notification came out that they were placing him on injured reserve, it sprung a lot of questions, especially in a week where the Broncos offense will need to get the run game going. They're going to have to try to this week when you're taking on guys like Alex Highsmith, Cam Hayward, obviously TJ Watt, Patrick Queen at linebacker, Minkah Fitzpatrick coming up and playing the run from that safety position. The run game will be crucial for the Broncos offense this week. They need to find a way to get it going, because then that will help rookie quarterback Bo Nix. So this is a loss, obviously. And look, I imagine this week too, if he was healthy, I imagine in some short yardage situations, if Denver found themselves in that, which they didn't have too many against the Seahawks, Estime, I think, could have been a big, I'd say, X factor in terms of Denver maybe moving the chains. Even if you're going to get, hey, let's say it's a 3rd and 1 or 2nd and 3, you need those yards. I think Estime, with his big build and his ability to get explosive in between the hole really quickly, feel like that would have been a benefit here to have for the Broncos offense, but they will be without him for the next 4 weeks, guaranteed. And in a corresponding roster move, the team promoted fullback Michael Burton from the practice squad to the 53-man roster. And so Denver right now, when you look at the 53, they really have Javonte Williams and they have Jaleel McLaughlin. They also have Blake Watson. They could dip into the practice squad here, potentially here this week. And I'm very curious to see what Sean Payton decides to do. There likely won't be any movement on that front, maybe until Friday, maybe Saturday, as the team gets ready for their game. You're going to have to get some transactional stuff into the league, obviously ahead of Sunday's game. But, for me, it's okay, if you need to get the run game going against this tough defense, how are you going to do it? Like, you have to have an emphasis here with Javonte Williams heavy early on. When Jaleel McLaughlin comes in, you can't just make it to where, okay, hey, when he's in, everybody knows that number 38 is going to be touching the football. There has to be some diversification of the run game. That was certainly an issue, I think, in week 1 against the Seahawks. You're playing a stingier, more stout defense now. You can't have that same type of issue kind of peek its head through here against the Steelers team. And then, hey, you're going to be facing 2 defenses in the next couple of weeks after the Steelers that really try to sell out to stop the run as well. So some challenges here for the Broncos early on. Obviously, the injuries are not something you ever want to deal with. That's something that the Broncos, unfortunately, are in here, especially considering they came into week 1 fully healthy, nobody on the injury report. Well, that list grew substantially here going into week number 2. So we talked about, obviously, the loss of Audric Estime. We didn't get to see much of a sample size from him against the Seahawks. So it's really hard to guesstimate what his impact would be. But you look at his big physical stature, the reason they drafted him, and say, you know what, if they were trying to get the run game going, if this was the week that they were really going to emphasize it, it would have been great to have Estime in the mix. But right now, your three backs on the active roster, as we mentioned, Javonte, Jaleel, and obviously Blake Watson here. But that brings me to my next point. We could very well see, since the Broncos have carried 4 initially going into the 53-man roster, and with those guys, minus Estime, who's now on IR, wouldn't be surprised if you see Tyler Badie elevated from the practice squad to the active game day roster here for Sunday's game against the Steelers. I think when you look at it in its total form from training camp to the preseason, I think that Tyler Badie had the most productive outlook as a rusher in all the games that he appeared in. He scored in every game that he appeared in for Denver in the preseason. And that's obviously an impressive feat. He's been on this team. He's been on the practice squad for the last couple of years. He could be a guy that comes in, plays special teams for you right away, or he could see some carries in this game against the Steelers on Sunday. The Broncos trying to figure out how to get what they need out of this unit here this week. Obviously, coming off of a rough performance offensively against the Seahawks, and now it doesn't get any easier because you are facing TJ Watt and that Steelers defense, and they are going to sell out to try to stop the run, but they're also going to try to get after the quarterback. And if Denver can't get the run game going, it's going to be hard for Bo Nix and the offense to get going in general, which could mean a very low-scoring affair here on Sunday at Empower Field at Mile High. Estime's injury isn't the only one that Broncos fans need to be concerned about. Denver had a very lengthy list going into Wednesday's injury report. We'll talk about why we are concerned potentially about the Broncos wide receiver depth, because 2 players who played quite a bit this past week against the Seattle Seahawks and had pivotal roles missed practice on Wednesday. We'll highlight Devon Vele and Josh Reynolds and their absence, what it could mean for the team, and why they made a corresponding roster move as well after holding a tryout for several wide receivers. You'll get that and much more here in today's episode, Locked On Broncos. Today's episode of Locked On Broncos is brought to you by our friends over there at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And look, we talk all the time about FanDuel. We talk about the odds on the games this weekend. I want to talk about something else here with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now through September 22nd, you place a $5 bet. All customers of FanDuel place a $5 bet. You will get a 3-week free trial to NFL Sunday Ticket, part of YouTube and YouTube TV, where you can also cancel at any time. But you get a 3-week free trial exclusively there. And then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game, all from the comfort of your home. Whether you're near, whether you're far, you get your favorite team wherever you are at through Sunday Ticket. And all you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. The Broncos are 3-point home underdogs against the Steelers this week. You can place a $5 bet on FanDuel, and you can get 3 weeks of NFL Sunday Ticket on a free trial. So check it out today. And if that's not enough, be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's Double Your Winnings for all of Sunday, September 15th, pregame moneyline bets. Profit Boost will be live starting on Thursday, September 12th. View your account page now to learn more about your boost, and just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. Today's episode of the show is also brought to you by our friends over there at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is what keeps your #1 ride or die alive every single day. You can level up your vehicle, or you can make modifications to it through eBay Motors by going to ebaymotors.com, because they have everything that you need to maintain your vehicle and to also level it up. Whether you're getting superchargers, a roof rack, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, if you can think it, eBay Motors, they've got it. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, they have all the parts that you need over there at eBay Motors. With over 122 million parts to be exact for your #1 ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts that you need at the prices that you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Once again, that is ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. The injury report keeps rising up here for the Denver Broncos. They have several key players miss practice on Wednesday. That puts their status for Sunday's game against the Steelers and Denver's home opener in question. We'll tell you why we're concerned, and also what to look for this week in the event some of these players cannot go. We already highlighted rookie running back Audric Estime landing on injured reserve for the next 4 weeks. We talked about how Blake Watson could maybe see more carries on the active roster here this week. We also talked about maybe how Tyler Badie could be a name that gets elevated from the practice squad to the active game day roster for Sunday, then revert back next week. But Denver's going to have to find a way to get the run game going against the Steelers. And look, offensively, there's some questions about how they're going to be able to do that because you have 2 starters on the offensive line who missed practice on Wednesday. On top of that, 2 wide receivers who contributed heavily in the Broncos' offensive game plan against the Seahawks. So right now, the offense is in a little bit of dire straits. Let's start off with the offensive line here. Left tackle Garett Bolles did not participate in Wednesday's practice. He was off on the side field. We all know from Sean Payton's presser on Monday with us, he told us that Garett has a bone bruise, a contusion there. The X-ray, the MRI came back fine. And I imagine we're going to continue to monitor his progress throughout the week. If he is unable to go, that means that Matt Peart will more than likely start at left tackle. So you have to hope and you have to believe that maybe Garett Bolles will be limited on Thursday. Maybe he upgrades a little bit to full on Friday. He's tough. He's played that way before, but maybe going into Sunday's game with a heavily taped ankle. If Denver is without Garett on Sunday and Peart does start, that does cause a little bit of concern for me based on what we've seen from Peart in the preseason, based on what we've seen from him so far, even last week against the Seahawks when he filled in. Often at times he struggles against power rushers, and there were a couple times in the preseason where he got pushed onto his rear end or near the lap of the quarterback. Last week, he got pushed into Bo Nix's lap on one snap. And when you look at Alex Highsmith, you look at TJ Watt, if Matt Peart is starting at tackle, if I'm the Steelers defensive coordinator, I'm saying I'm putting TJ Watt on number 79 side. To me, that causes a little bit of concern here for an offensive unit that desperately needs to bounce back after a disappointing performance last week. That is something to keep an eye on. But it wasn't just Garett Bolles who was missing Wednesday's practice. Center Luke Wattenberg missed Wednesday's practice with an ankle injury. Alex Forsythe stepped in to get reps there. And if obviously Wattenberg is unable to go on Sunday, it will be Forsythe who would be expected to step into the starting lineup. And obviously his familiarity, his former teammate chemistry there with Bo Nix, maybe that could benefit the Broncos if in fact Wattenberg does miss. But Luke was the guy who really kind of ran away with that starting job here in training camp. And Forsythe is still developing, is on a good track here. But you may have to expedite that process a little bit if Wattenberg cannot go on Sunday. So we'll be monitoring that. Now let's get to the wide receiver position. Look, we've already talked about some of the concerns of wide receiver even after the Seahawks game because of you going with 5 guys. You have one of those guys inactive. You elevate a practice squad guy to the active game day roster, and you don't even use Marvin Mims. Well, now the Broncos injury report on Wednesday, rookie wide receiver Devon Bailey, who had 8 catches on 8 targets in Sunday's game against the Seahawks. He looked impressive. He had a good performance and show out against there. He did not participate in Wednesday's practice with a rib injury designation. And I'm not sure if there was any particular moment in that game where we can go back and say, okay, that's where it happened. But obviously causing a little bit of a discomfort to the point he missed Wednesday's practice. We'll see where he's at in terms of Thursday's practice when we are able to view it, obviously in Dove Valley on Thursday afternoon. And then obviously veteran wide receiver Josh Reynolds had an Achilles injury pop up a little bit in OTAs, somewhat in training camp. It held him out for a limited amount of time and he was able to come back. But obviously something worth monitoring is he did not participate in Wednesday's practice either. And it was a little interesting too, because on Tuesday, we were scouring the NFL transaction wire and it popped up that the Broncos, they had tried out 4 wide receivers, including former New York Jets draft pick Denzel Mims, not Marvin. I think a lot of people confuse the two when you try to talk about him. It doesn't help that there's a Marvin Mims on the Broncos roster when talking about this, but former Bronco training camp standout Caden Davis also was in that tryout group there. He got the gig for the Broncos here. He did enough to impress them. He signed to their practice squad on Wednesday, and he was out there at practice. We are able to see him, but just makes things a little interesting in terms of the receiver dynamic with where Denver's at right now. Sean Payton met with the media following Wednesday's practice and was even asked about Marvin Mims, his usage, and says depending on who they play, you'll see his pitch count either rise up a little bit in terms of how they use him. His speed might be a good factor this week against the Steelers, but you have to give Bo Nix time in the passing game to be able to find him downfield, or you can get him involved in the quick, short, intermediate passing game and maybe see if he can do some damage with yards after the catch. But obviously a little bit of a concern here with Bailey, with Reynolds missing practice. We'll continue to monitor their status all throughout the week here. More than likely, we could see little Jordan Humphrey elevated from the practice squad to the active game day roster here once again, if in fact one of those guys misses. But look, even if you have one or two of those guys miss, this might be the perfect game. You might have to play Troy Franklin this week and just see where he's at a little bit earlier than I think the team had expected, but he has speed. He's got chemistry with Bo Nix. That could be something that helps the team out. And then the final injury here, rookie outside linebacker Jonah Ellis had a knee injury. He was limited in Wednesday's practice. He should be able to go here for this upcoming game on Sunday. We'll keep you posted all throughout the week here. Locked On Broncos. Thursday's episode of the show is a crossover. I sit down with Chris Carter, host of the Locked On Steelers podcast, and we preview this matchup from Denver's offense, Denver's defense, special teams, what's going to factor into how Denver or Pittsburgh can win this game and vice versa. You get both sides of that conversation on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Broncos. And then Friday, you'll close it out with a preview, game players to watch, game preview there, final injury report recap, and we take you behind the scenes inside the Broncos locker room. We get some interviews with Riley Moss and other players that you'll get specifically this week here on the Locked On Broncos podcast. Broncos Country, we'll see you next time.